since we're kind of running late anyway, I think I'll go ahead and get started here. You want to bring your drink up here, Walton? So I want you to kind of work together with Jeff here. This is Jeff Franks from Colorado Sound. And obviously, Jeff has brought all the interesting stuff here. Okay, so can you guys, for about a half hour, and maybe we'll take a break? That work? Give everybody a chance to stretch and stuff. And if you have questions, if you can write them down or keep them in your mind, please do until they get through, because a lot of times they'll answer the questions that you have. And when you interrupt to ask them a question, a lot of times it interrupts the flow of thought here, and they may have got their act really together, and then it kind of messes it up, So, how about if I give you the microphone, Jeff, and you can start?
What's up, guys? My name is Jeff Franks, and I'm in Colorado Studio. I've been DJing for about 11 years now. 11 years. Can't hear me? Can't hear me? Talking to the microphone. All right. So yeah, I've been DJing for like about 11 years now, since 2003, and yeah, it kind of it's something that's always just kind of been instilled in my heart, honestly. Like, first party I ever went to was some random mountain party, and I saw some dude DJing on the vinyl. I was like, what's this guy doing? And I just sat there the whole night from like 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. just watching these DJs cycle through their whole sets and everything. And I was just blown away by it. So when I got home the next morning, I just had to figure out what was going on with it. And I was about, let's say, freshman in high school by then, just kind of new to high school. And yeah, I kind of gave up high school after that. Got my first job sophomore year, just to get my first set of turntables. And I just kind of took off from there. They were a piece of crap Gemini CDJs. And but the cool thing about them is they made you work to get your mix, Like, it wasn't like you just press the sync button. You had to like actually pitch bend everything, or like use the pitch fader and everything. And it wasn't until 100th. It was to an 1/8. So when you're doing pitch, you want it to be real accurate, or else your tracks are going to start drifting away from each other. I'll go more into that and kind of show you what that is in the program. But yeah, that's how I got kind of good at it, and then I slowly just kind of progressed through, started doing more shows, house parties, which were really fun. I almost got arrested a couple times. Yeah, it's kind of not a bad thing until your parents find out. But yeah, it's just something I've always loved doing. I used to always just hang out in my basement and just mix tracks and go on a journey and make that journey yourself. Like you get to pick all the music you want to play. And then once I kind of figured out the whole kind of technique of DJing and electronic music, I just started going to clubs, making demos, handing them out to promoters. And then I kind of got out of it a little bit. I ended up getting another job, a girlfriend. And then I kind of stopped DJing for about a year. And then I found Colorado Sound, actually, and they got me more into production. And I'm kind of getting back into it now, doing more hip-hop, which is still a very, very important avenue of electronic music. I don't know if you guys know who Steve Aoki is, but he does a lot of his tracks are based off of hip-hop genre type style stuff. But that's just kind of the history of me, how I sort of got into it. I'm going to kind of just start going off on how the functions of like turntables work. So you guys can kind of understand why people love doing it so much and what's so awesome about it.
Why don't you hand it to Walter?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? I actually want to hear what he's got to say about all this stuff. But I'm thinking what I'm going to do after he goes through how the functionality of this gear works and things like that is kind of talk about the life cycle of someone in the EDM industry and the different avenues that you can take in your career in the EDM. Because I start little kids at 8 years old, and I'm working with people who are on national tours right now. So I've seen the gamut, know a lot of different directions you can take with the education you can get doing this. So I think that's probably good. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure. All right, man. Thanks, Walt. First thing, probably gonna want to know what a volume fader is. You can kind of see everything I'm doing on these controllers is emulated. These controllers are designed to basically work every function in this program, besides the pitch function, which I kind of have to do with my mouse here. The new controller actually does have that function, but really the only thing I'm not going to cover here, well, with the controller. But before I get into like these controllers, the thing you got to understand about DJing is it's evolved over the past like 15, 20 years, you know? Like we didn't have laptop PCs and stuff and MIDI controllers to start mixing with, you know? Most people started on vinyl, you know? I'm sure you guys might know what vinyl is.
What are you saying? Open mouth, stick foot in it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still a staple of DJing to this day, you know? I mean, there's still a lot of functionality in vinyl. But back then, they were playing on 2 tracks, 2 decks like this. You got 2 decks right here. And it was all on a vinyl record, you know? So you had to really use your headphones and cue up all your mixes and really know what you're playing, like what tempos and what keys these records are playing in, you know, or else it's not going to work. It's just going to sound like crap. With that being said, the evolution of DJ kind of went on to CDJs, where, you know, like you guys know what CDs are. You just pop some CDs in these CD turntables, you know, and they have jog wheels, and you can seek through the songs. You can pitch bend the songs so you can beat match really easily. It shows you what tempo all your songs are going to. Like this is the tempo right here. You can see where my mouse cursor is, running at 128 beats per minute. That's also in relation to pitch. So when you increase or decrease the pitch of this, it's gonna, I mean, when you increase or decrease the tempo, it's gonna increase or decrease the pitch. And that's also another advancement in DJ technology is the key lock right here, is you can lock your key to whatever, like you can keep the key and move the tempo of the song. It doesn't affect the key, you know, it's a pretty useful tool. Unless you really want it to move up, you know, it's kind of a decision thing you gotta make there. But yeah, that's kind of some of the advancements, the main big ones here. I'm gonna move into the mixer here with frequencies and stuff. This is another big thing in mixing here. I'm gonna play this track here real quick so you guys can kind of hear what's going on. So when I start cutting out the low end here, you can really hear it. There's no bass anymore, you guys see? So if I was going into this next track here, I would want this side killed, you know, because if you bring in the bass, it's just gonna like, it's really gonna make everything muddy and disgusting sounding, and it's just not gonna work at all, you know. So the mids are good to mix. I don't really cut too much mids unless I have to, you know. Same with the highs. I really just kind of tweak those if I really need to. But that's kind of like the basis of mixing into your next track, you know. You're going to use a lot of EQing. That's how these guys are getting into their next track without you noticing it, you know. Or they're using cue points, and they'll just go to like this drop right here, and they'll just drop it in right here. They'll have a cue point set right here, and then it'll just go straight into it like that, and then you have your break right there, you know. But you guys kind of following along with me here. And this is just kind of some of the functions of the controllers, whether you're on like a CD player. CD players are going to have all the same functions as these decks pretty much. Vinyl is not necessarily going to have all the same functions as the CD decks, because it's just basically a play button, a cue button, or a stop button, or a pause button, and your tone arm and a pitch slider, you know. I mean, it's real simple. But that's where it gets a little bit more difficult using vinyl, you know, to DJ with, is because you just don't have all the visuals you have here. You know, you don't have these waveforms right here. You can't see when like this break's about to hit. You know, like I can see this thing's about to come in, so I better get my stuff together and make sure that drops correctly when the next track comes in. But that's kind of what makes DJ like older school DJs real talented. You know, they didn't have these waveforms. They did it all by their ear. You know, they listened to the tracks over and over and over. They spent the time to really learn the music that they're playing, you know, so when they play it, they can put on a really good performance, you know. Yeah, that's DJing. I was just kind of showing you guys the functions of some of this stuff here. So when I start talking about like genres and stuff, you guys will really kind of understand why I'm picking a certain tempo of this song that I'm picking, you know, or just like the key I'm picking it in, you know, or maybe the next song I'm going in is a completely different genre that's just going to make the crowd go nuts, or maybe they're just not feeling it and there's not that many people there, so you got to just kind of keep it down tempo for the night, you know. A lot of it's about track selection, making sure you're choosing the right tracks. It's not all about what you want to play, you know. You got to play out what the crowd's gonna want to hear, you know. You're there to make them happy. They paid to be there, you know, and have a party and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a balance too. You can play some of the stuff you want to play, but also you have to kind of cater with like the top 40 kind of stuff. And that also depends on like if you're playing a big club, you know, like if you're playing like Beta or Vinyl or something, yeah, you could probably get away with playing techno music all night. But if you're playing like some bar on a strip here, you gotta play top 40 like hip hop mix mashes and stuff like that. That's just what's gonna get people going on it. And it's all different styles too. It's cool. There's a lot of different styles of DJing that you can really pick up and learn. That's like vinyl. Coming back to the vinyl thing again, like scratching and hip hop. Like I play at least 2 hip hop shows a weekend, if not more than that, and every single DJ wants me to scratch for them, you know, or scratch over their set. So it's like something I still have to cater to, you know. And it's really cool that that stuff is still out there and people still want that, you know. It's just kind of a staple of the industry. I'm gonna start going in here now that I'm talking about genres. I'm gonna start talking about more genres and kind of where to get your music. Beatport is like where I started getting a lot of my music. There's a lot of other places you can pick up music that you can get different deals on, and there's different like top lists. This is just kind of the main one that a lot of EDM goes off of. And then straight up right here, it's genres right away, you know, and which is great. So like I can be like, oh, I want to buy a bunch of break tracks, you know, or I'm into just a chill out set right now because I'm hanging out with a bunch of my friends and they're just in a chill mood. Or, you know, house, we'll click some electro house. That's a pretty common one. And I'm just gonna pick a track here. You can kind of see the prices of these. They're going for a main track that hasn't really been out that long, like a new release. It's going for about $249. Back when I started and buying tracks off of here, it was still $249. So not much price fluctuation there. I'm gonna play this one at least. I haven't heard this one actually yet, but they'll throw up this waveform up here. Which is kind of cool because it shows me right here that this track is going at 128 beats per minute right away, and it's in A minor. So I know like what that track's about. So that's what I'm going for, you know. I'll find some more tracks maybe that are in or around A minor, or I can go up a couple octaves if that's what I really need to. I'll talk more about harmonic mixing here in a second too once I'm done with this part. Pick another one here from a different genre. So another close one is techno. A lot of people call EDM techno. It's a very just thrown out loosely term, but it is a specific genre that does have a specific sound. tempos are similar, but it just sounds different, you know? Like, see, this one's going at 123, and it's in D sharp major. I mean, you'd still have to see if that corresponds with what you're trying to work with, you know? But it's cool, they used to not put this kind of stuff when you buy your music in there, you know? You used to have to just listen to it and be like, you know, that song kind of sounds good with what I was gonna do, or you just kind of have to know the keys or the tempo. We didn't have the apps and stuff back then, so just tap out a tempo, you know? So it was just a lot harder to buy music back then, but as you can see, they're making it a lot easier to just pick up some tracks and build this set that's really gonna be cool, you know, that people are gonna actually enjoy and that'll flow together consistently. You guys can kind of hear the difference between that. That last track was a lot more intense. This one's kind of more chill, back and forth. Play another one here. This one's going at a 126, so that first house track that I showed you guys was 128. So you'd only have to drop down 2 beats per minute to mix that in, which is really not that much, you know. If you start really going really far past some of these, like say I started at 128 beats per minute and I want to drop it to like 120 or like 110, you're going to really start hearing some artifacts in the audio, or your deck might not even be able to pull it down or push it up that far, you know? So you really got to kind of pay attention to what you're mixing into. Another thing is too, you can halftime this stuff. So like 126, or half of 120 is 60, you know? So if I find a 60 BPM track, I can still make that work with my track that's going at 120 beats per minute. And that's a really useful thing too, to be like mixing between different genres, you know? Like I could go from a house track straight into like a hip hop track that goes at 60 BPM, you know? And it makes a really cool dynamic. You can really move around. And that's just like, that's just stuff that's really useful for a DJ to know, and even just anybody that's gonna play electronic music, whether you're just playing it, you know, to get the feeling out of it, or mostly whether you're just mixing it. But I mean, to set a mood and a feeling, I feel like the tempo that the track is going at is very important to pay attention to. Because I mean, if this is going really slow and it's just like, oh man, the song's just kind of boring, I'm not really feeling that. Maybe some other dude is feeling it, but you're not, you know? Maybe you want to just kick it up a little bit. Here, I'll find another here. I'm sure you guys have all heard about dubstep. Some people like it, it's a love-hate thing. I think it's all cool, personally. Find just a track here. You can really tell the difference, probably. Much more intense. It's got almost that rock and roll type feel to it, you know? Kick, snare, kick, snare. I mean, most of them are like kick, snare like that, but it's just separated differently within the track. This one's an F minor too. They up the tempo a little bit, but where they're placing the beat makes it feel like it's going slower. I can kind of show you that here a little bit more once I get into the production stuff, which I'm going to go to here. After I show you one more of these. So we'll just do some trance music. I mean, that's a pretty renowned, well-known. And that's actually really close to dubstep too. A lot of trance tracks go anywhere from 132 BPM all the way up to 145. 140 is pretty standard. But it's cool because you can halftime 140 into 70, and there's just a whole plethora of tracks you can mix with that. So I'm in here hearing some trance tracks. See, that was 130. So if I kick this one up about 8 BPM or drop the other one down a few and just kind of like met them in the middle, you know, you can mix a trance track with a dubstep track. Given that you are playing in a key that does work well with the track you're trying to mix into. You see this one hits probably with a pretty pumping thing. Yeah, and that bass line, I'll talk more about that kind of bass line too, side-chained bass line like that. So I'm going to show you guys the harmonic mixing wheel here real quick. Cool. So this is called a Camelot wheel. I use Mixed In Key. It comes with a program on the side of it too, called Mixed In Key, and basically it tells you like it's just like a wheel that tells you all the keys that kind of in unison that go around, you know, majors, minors. But it labels your tracks. You can choose how it labels your tracks. I choose the 12A, the A, 12A, and the 11B format instead of the major and minor format. But so basically, this makes it so I can choose my tracks depending on the key. You know, it's not perfect. I'd say it's 95% perfect in analyzing the tracks and saying what key that track is in. But basically, say I'm playing like a 1A track, I can either go forward or backward. Usually want to bring it up more than a semitone up than what you're doing. So I wouldn't normally skip from like a 1A to a 2A. I go from like a 1 to a 3 or a 1 to a 4 or 5. Everyone has their different preferences on how to use this, but it's a really, really useful tool to DJs to make your mixes sound really consistent and the keys to work better so you can move the crowd how you want to move them, you know. If you want them to go deeper, start going backwards on this wheel, you know. If you want to kind of bring up the energy, start going forwards on it. But in order to get to a major, you have to be, it's recommended that you be in the same, like E, say I'm in E flat, it's recommended that I'm in like this 2B section here, you know, go from a 2A to a 2B. I wouldn't want to go from a 2A to a 3B, you know. It would just probably sound weird. It's cool, it's just like cool guidelines that you can go by to just make your mix sound that much better and bring the crowd to a place you want them to be, you know. I'm gonna bust open Ableton here and kind of show you just some stuff, just kind of the basics of how just a dance track would be laid out. I was actually working on this morning when I woke up, my bagel and my coffee. So it's not super intense, but it's pretty good, you know, very cool beat. It might turn into something cool later, but say my interface isn't connected here. That's kind of another thing about just being a DJ and working in the audio industry in general. You're gonna have to use like gear and stuff, and you gotta know your gear and how it works. It's definitely, always read the manual. Remember when I got my first set of decks, I worked in a gas station, and I literally sat in like this 8x8 box all day, and it really wasn't that busy. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I just busted out the manuals, and I'd sit there and read the manuals to all my stuff all day. And I mean, I knew it inside out, you know? I mean, that's kind of what you just gotta do. So if you don't, you're just gonna get yourself in trouble, and you're not gonna know what's going on, and people are just gonna be angry and not happy with what you're doing. So, just gonna set this up real quick. There we go. While this is up here, I'm actually going to kind of talk about audio quality real quick. So we have sample rate and bit depth here. Actually, for bit depth, yeah, it doesn't show the bit depth here. But sample rate is basically the resolution you're playing, and the bit depth combined is the resolution you're playing your music at. Most standards, like CD quality is 16-bit, 44.1K. That's what you're hearing off of a CD player. Anything above that, like DVD quality, is 24-bit, 48K. Blu-ray quality, that's why Blu-rays have much more data on there, because the higher resolution it is, the more data it's going to take up in order to store that file. So you got to kind of think about that when you're playing your tracks. I mean, do you have the space to do that? If you do, go for it, I'd say. But so load up this session here real quick. It's gonna take a second. It's gotta load some plugins. Do you guys have any questions while I'm kind of just loading this here? Anybody? No questions?
So, I don't know that much about all this stuff. So you're taking going off the beatboard, you're taking different tracks?
Yeah. So basically, like, right, what I'm doing right now is I have.
So it's like you're hearing two songs at once.
Yes, you're mixing into the next song, but that's where the EQing comes in, and you got to be careful when you're going into your next track, or else you can really overpower it with a lot of frequencies, and it just turns into kind of a muddy mess.
That's like two songs at some point.
Oh, not always. I mean, they're now, like, a lot of clubs have 4-deck standards, and most mixers they'll be running 4 decks. So I mean, you can do a lot of stuff, like have the low end going in one track, have your mids coming out the next track, and then have pretty much the full band of the frequencies playing off your last track and just be playing with that, you know? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities you can do with that, but I mean, you really need to know the fundamentals of DJing in order to pull off something like that, you know?
I'm just thinking of your mind trying to multitask.
It is, yes, yeah, you gotta definitely learn it, and that's where practice comes in, you know? I mean, you gotta just know when you're listening to the other track and what other track you're playing into it, you know? I mean, it just takes time, and it's really not that hard. But once you get it, it's super fun. But like what you were saying there, like, this program is a DAW, it's a digital audio workstation software. You can also get controllers for them. But people are making these mixes you buy off of Beatport with software like this. This one's called Ableton Live. It's one of the more common ones in the electronic music industry. I know Logic is kind of a Mac-based proprietary one. That's another really big one. But you can also use Pro Tools. I know really great DJs that use Fruity Loops. Just check them out. This is probably one of the more ones you would see in like that scene. But yeah, they're making full songs in a software like this, and then they're bouncing it out, and then it gets mastered, and then they'll put it on to Beatport or something, or they'll hand it to a publisher like you or something. Then that's how it gets kind of on those websites. But I got a little session going here. I was kind of just working on a track this morning. I'm just going to start playing things one by one. I'm going to start off with the beat here on the drum rack. A lot of people say that, especially in dance music, that I guess it gets kind of boring. My dad always says that. He's like, why do you listen to this? It's always like, same thing over and over. Well, it is. It's kind of the point of it, you know? I mean, a lot of it's really loop-based. And that's kind of what puts you in like a trance, or puts you in a different state, you know? And it's just a different approach to music. It's actually really simple. And so I'm gonna start off with the beat here real quick. I just got a simple kind of kit going on here. And it's pretty simple. I just got kick talk. But then it'll progress here a little more. I start adding my kick snare into it. You can hear some hi-hat in there. It's a hi-hat on every bar, or every beat pretty much. This one brings it down a little bit. Just kick snare. That's really common. I'm going at 123 right now. That's pretty much house music status, depending on the music you throw into it. I'd say this is kind of more of like a down-tempo tech house type track. So I'm gonna go back to the main beat here, or the first beat I started off with. And then I'm gonna bring in my bass line here and kind of show you the bass line I made. It's real simple, but make sure my compressor's not sure. So it sounds real normal once it starts. You know, it's kind of cool. It's just gonna keep looping like that, you know? But a really common thing that people do is sidechain with a compressor. I'm not gonna get into like how compressors work, 'cause I could go on all day on that. But what you do is you sidechain your bass line, or even some other parts to your kick or your drum kit, and make it start pumping. And that technique right there has just been implemented since like for a really, really long time. I mean, that pump, just getting the club that makes you just want to jump up and down. I mean, that's a big part of it. But yeah, they're just side chaining the bass line with a compressor to the kick. I mean, it's once you figure it out, it's actually a really simple technique. I'm gonna throw my little hook in here. It's really simple too. Once again, this is just you can see the MIDI notes just going along here. I didn't really change it up too much. I mean, just with that, I mean, I have a pretty solid foundation for a dance track right now. And I mean, I got 3 sets of kits. See how it just keeps going with each other, you know? And I really don't have too many effects in here, but this is another pretty common one, especially in like house music. A lot of people call it the wash, but it's really just like a side chain. It's like the side chain I was talking about with the bass line, but it's actually a white noise or pink noise, depending on like the sound you're going for. You can kind of hear it in there. Kind of just gives it a little more rhythm to it, you know, something you can flow on. I got 2 of them going on here too. Like in a big club, like this track would be just sound pumping just with the three, 4 things I got going on here. I mean, that's just kind of goes to show, like, you really don't need that much to make a kicking track in a club. I mean, and this one's really not laid out that much, but I mean, just the fundamentals of it is just kind of the point I'm trying to get across here. And I mean, I'll just start throwing other little loops in here, and you can kind of just see how the song builds over time. And I'll just like kill this bass. I mean, that'll just be a chill break, let that go on for like 8, 16 bars maybe. I mean, you can get away with that kind of stuff in dance music. You can hear too how that bass line is still sidechain. Like if I stop this track, you're just gonna hear it go straight through now. This is still really cool. I mean, you can, well, just by killing that one track, I just changed the whole feel of that entire track, you know, for like a break. Just bring it back in. Oh, yeah, bass kill. You see, you hear how it starts pumping again?
So when you're ending the song, do you back it back down again?
What's that?
When you're ending that track, you back it all back down again, you back where you started?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can take it down to just like one thing here. Like I'll stop it all. And I mean, I could just start it off with like, with this thing right here.
Put in the other view so she can see the layers that you have. Put in the other view.
Oh, I haven't built any layers here yet. Yeah, I've just built something real quick in a session view here real quick. But this is actually, he's got a good point here. Once I have like all these sounds and stuff, then I would actually start building it into a song, like a full track, you know? And yet, like I'd start just throwing like the drum kick in there where I wanted it, you know? And then I could, where'd my song go? Here we go. So I could just like kill it with something like that, you know, and then just slowly bring it back up with this thing here. I mean, that would be just kind of like a chill breakdown, and then maybe throw like an effect in there or something. Like I got tons of samples here. Just go for some kind of simple stuff here. So this would be like an 8-bar build, maybe into the kick or something. So I'm just gonna kind of choose one of these here. Break it down a bit. This is kind of the fun part about it too, you know, you're gonna like play a bunch of instruments and sift through all this stuff and see what works and just make this track how you want to make it, you know. I mean, usually it's most of it's all in 4/4 too, you know. So you'd be counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. It usually goes for like 8 or 16 bars till you get to either your build or your break or of what you'd be doing, you know. It's real simple actually, and that's kind of the fun of it is you can just kind of simplify it. It's not all like that, but most of it is. And that's just kind of what makes it fun too. Is you can just sit down here and be like, oh man, that 4-bar loop works really well with the rest of what I'm doing here, and it just makes the rest of the track or something, you know. Trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing here. That's just kind of like some fundamental stuff. I just kind of wanted to show you the basics of making like a dance track, you know, like how simple or complicated it can be. I mean, this is really simple. Layering is a huge thing. I really didn't do much layering in this. I didn't have a lot of time to do it. But I mean, like with this lead here, it's real simple. If I like opened up, or I'll just copy it into this other one here real quick. So a lot of people will, they layer these leads. I mean, that's how you get these huge fat leads. They'll have like 4 or 5, even 6 of them layered up, you know, all with the same pattern, but it's just different sounds on it, you know? So you can really like, once it gets to the next 8 bars, you throw it into the next sound, but it's still the same pattern, you know? And then once it gets to like maybe the last, I don't know, like 32, then you just throw that kick in and it just all kind of brings it together, you know? And then you can throw the bass line in on top of that lead when you do it. That's like one kind of way of doing it. You can change it here. I'll change the tempo up a little bit here. I'll throw this thing all the way up to like 140 and give you an idea of what it feels like. Until it's definitely a little bit more intense up in here. So I just half-timed that there. I just took out the 2 beats right there. I don't know if you guys saw. I'll do it again. So it's like pumping pretty good right there. So that would be like a dubstep feel right there. I just went from like a house track to a dubstep track from like, or a dubstep feel kind of, just from taking the tempo up and taking a couple beats out, you know? I mean, it really just changes the track up like that. And that's the cool thing about this program too, is it really manipulates or warps audio in real time very well, you know? Like I just stretched that thing from 123 to 140 and you can't even hear any artifacts in it, you know? And it's always gonna sound better too if you're going up in tempo than down in tempo, because it crunches the waveform instead of expanding it, you know what I'm saying? So that's a good thing to know too. Yeah, it just gives it a completely different feel, but it's still like, it sounds cool, you know? You can still work with that if you want to change it up, you know?
Is there a certain length you work for a song, or it just goes until, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've actually noticed a lot of dance tracks, or yeah, a lot of just EDM tracks in general. A lot of EDM's kind of a term that was kind of adopted in the past couple of years, you know. It was always just called like kind of dance music or the genre, house music or whatever genre you're playing, you know. But EDM's kind of the culmination of it. But I've actually seen those tracks shorten up a bit since then, you know. The tracks I started playing way back when were like, they'd be like 6-7 minute tracks, you know, and you could either work the front half, the back half, or quarters of it, you know, however you wanted it, or just find the part you liked in it. But now I'm noticing a lot of these tracks are like 3-4 minutes long, you know. I mean, they'll just play the whole track out and just mix front to back, you know, out of these tracks. Or they'll just cut them in half and play like a minute, 2 minutes of it. That's kind of where 4 decks is pretty cool, because you can play like a good 30 seconds of a song, and then when that next break hits, you just drop it into the next song, and you just keep moving along down the decks with it, you know. and it makes it really quick. That's how a lot of these DJ competitions go, actually. You got 15 minutes of fame, buddy. Like, yeah, so stick what you can in it, you know. That's how they are, man. But if you can do that and pull it off, man, people notice that. They notice you got the skills to pay the bills, man. So, how am I doing on time here? Yeah, break time. Cool, works with me. Yeah, sure, totally. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Take a break.
There's a couple conversations still going on. Just give me a second. It's all right. How you doing? Hey, I'm Walt. I have like 20 different job roles, so I'm not going to tell you who I represent until I get into this. I was thinking we would open up the question and answer session right away so you guys can get the information out of me that you want, rather than me just talking. So I'm just going to tell you what I know and what I do, and then we can kind of lead from there. I started off, both my parents are symphony musicians. My mom's one of the top 3, whatever, oboe instructors in the world. She has like 112 oboe students, right? She's got oboe students in every major symphony across the globe that you can imagine. And my dad is also a drum and bugle corps show writer, and he's a tuba player. He conducts a semi-pro symphony down in Macon. So I've been surrounded by live musicians all my life. I had Chuck Mangione in my house when I was 8 years old, like sitting in my living room. So I came from that live music background, and that's really important to me. And they made me play a band instrument, stuck me in band. I didn't want to be there. And it was horrible my entire high school career, and I finally found computers, and I turned into a computer geek and ran away from classical music and didn't want to be anything that had to do with music. And then all of a sudden it came back around, and DJing fell into my life, and that's where computers and music joined each other again. And all of a sudden I owned a DJ school. So that's what I do now, is I teach little kids and I teach adults how to make music and how to DJ and how to put songs together, one song after another, and perform and get a crowd going. So I also have a lot of other stuff I have to do in the DJ industry to make a living, because that can't support me solely. So I supply backline, and backline is, if you guys aren't live musicians, it's the stuff that all the performers perform on, right? And when you're a DJ, there's DJ equipment there. So I have a company that supplies all the DJ equipment when some big show comes in. I'm sure you guys have heard Tiesto, #1 DJ in the world. He played here last week at Skylab. He's playing on my gear. So we have to go in and set up all the gear for these guys and make sure they can do everything they want. So that's one of my companies. And the other one is I teach people how to DJ. And I also perform myself. I'm one of the DJs that play in all the major clubs, and I'm pretty versatile in what I can do. I can play, I'm the Rapids DJ for the Colorado Rapids, so I DJ the sports teams in front of 20,000 people in the stadium. And I also do nightclubs and music festivals, and I even do top 40 clubs where I have to play to someplace like Lodo's nightclub down the street. It's a top 40 club. So I see all the different avenues that you can possibly make money in the industry, and I'm pretty good at finding a place to put someone who's trying to make a living at it. So if you guys want to ask me questions about what I do and stuff like that, if you don't have anything right now, I'll kind of go through what my DJ Academy does to kind of develop an artist and bring them up in the EDM industry. But if you guys got something you want me to jet off on and talk about, anybody got anything?
Andy, you're the one who suggested this.
Well, perhaps some insights between, because this is kind of what sparked our conversation tonight, was we were kind of in the space of talking to primarily live musicians. And I said, well, we're not really touching on the EDM crowd. So maybe your thoughts on the scene, the live music scene versus the EDM scene, where those might cross.
So one of my business partners is Triad Dragons. Triad Dragons run all of the big EDM shows. Anything you see over 3,000 people is a Triad Dragon show, usually in this town. So I end up dealing with all their artists that come in. This last year that we did Global Dance Festival, we had one day that was dedicated just to EDM artists that were live musicians that performed as a group and as a band. So there is a hybrid, a crossover that comes from the EDM industry into the regular live rock band, whatever kind of band you're in industry, and there's this EDM groups that are much more expensive to book, but have a market in themselves that can work if they're really, really good at what they do. It's a smaller market, it's more difficult, but people like Infected Mushroom, what's that?
Underground?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say necessarily underground, just Crystal Method is definitely not underground. They hit the mainstream, so there's room for them, but there's not quite as many people. It's quite as many people competing in the market in the live musician EDM industry. So if you can give that kind of talent into the EDM industry, you have a niche where you can really excel. So if you're sitting there as a DJ, and someone like me who rebelled from learning anything beyond 12th grade tuba playing, right? And I just stopped learning how to read music and stuff like that. I'm struggling as a DJ to fight in the industry amongst thousands of other DJs. If you're a live musician and you can jump into the EDM industry as a live musician and you have some talent to go up and play parts of a song you're playing, like there's a new group called Disclosure that's out right now, right? That group has this huge song that's on the top 40 chart right now called Latch. Those guys, two brothers from England, they come up and they play, and they have an EDM sound. They work with Pro Tools. They launch all their tracks in this session view, right? And then they take certain parts of what they do and they show their musicianship on stage. And they'll come up, and it's something as simple as a tree of triangles of all different pitches. And it's mic'd, and they'll sit there and they'll whack out one sample out of their track, and the other guy's over there on a set of Congo drums. And the next track, they'll come up, and these two guys who have made all the parts to their EDM music pick two other parts, and they'll have another instrument there. And these guys are entertaining guys at Red Rock, or crowd at Red Rocks with 8,000, 9,000 people. They're really live musicians who have learned to take these different things that they can do and layer them together along with the computer's help and make a song that can hit the top 40 chart in the EDM industry, or even in the pop industry if they get really, really good. But they have a live musician talent that they can bring to the stage. So they can really set themselves apart and get more money for their same talent. Yeah. Because if you get a guy who's just playing the song Latch from Disclosure like me, all I can get booked at is a top 40 club. If you can actually go in and get your own remix of Latch, which is a huge song right now, and you're a big musician, you've produced a remix of that, you can get billing as a DJ playing that song. If you can actually perform that song, you're much more valuable to the EDM industry. Everything that has to do with how much you get paid in the EDM industry is based on your production value. It's how much your record sales are and stuff like that, so that you can draw in a market where you don't live. I'm mostly a top 40 DJ in this area, so I don't get a lot of bookings outside of town because I don't have any productions. It's really important in the EDM industry that you have productions out and you're selling records, because that's what draws people to you when you step outside of your local market. So that's how I feel. So I'm tangenting, I don't even know where I was supposed to be going. If somebody's got another question, I'll just run right back into it. So.
Well, you should talk about your performances with live musicians just locally, how you as a DJ can make it work.
All right, so she had a good idea. So I work for a company called Starkey, which is it's a branch called Dance Tracks, and we're the DJs that provide DJ services to a production company that does everything. As far they can put on the local 4th of July parade in downtown Denver if they wanted to. They do really high-end weddings, corporate events, Croc's corporate party when they had everybody from flying around the country and stuff like that. And we'll do stuff like a top-end wedding band for a $100,000 wedding is playing, and then a DJ would have to come in and fill in the times when the breaks were. And a DJ who's really good, who's worthy of the money of some place like the corporate event like Croc's would pay, or a high-end wedding for an upscale doctor up in Vail or something like that, would want a DJ who can beat match off of the band so there's not a lull in the music. So when the band's finishing up their last song, I don't have to be the local wedding DJ using sync trying to get one track into another, and I can't play against the band, right? So the higher end DJs who have the better skills can get into a position where they can DJ along with live musicians. And we also, my wife and I, have a group where we'll have a bari sax player, a guitar player, a trumpet player, and an electronic drummer who will play along with us. And we'll play dance tracks on our record player, on our turntables, or whatever we're playing on, and they'll hop in and play along with us and riff with solos and stuff like that. They can come on top of the house music. So there's lots of opportunity for an EDM performer who's a DJ to be able to get in and get along with live performers if you can find the right niche in the community. The underground EDM house scene, especially the jazzy house, deep house, funky house, love to have live musicians hop in. So if you're looking for a place to try to find some guys who have some great solo talent and can throw out solo jazz riffs and stuff like that, and you're looking for some extra work, I think that hopping in with a couple house DJs who are trying to put together a live sound is a great chance for you guys to get some extra money in different places. I work with, I'm not going to know his name, he's in Colorado. I've worked with a couple guys, I just can't remember his name right now, who have been live musicians in the scene, in the jazz industry, and in the local stuff. They play at Dazzle and things like that, and I go up and I ask them, like, we've got a gig, and we've got house DJs, lounge music, and we want to bring in some live musicianship with us, and we'll bring in a keyboardist who can sample our sounds, you know, and I can give him tracks ahead of time so he can get some samples and play with those on his keyboard, and also other musicians like jazz players and trumpet players and guitar players, and they can riff on top of our music. And it turns out really good to get this nice hybrid of what's going on. So, all right, I tangented off again, I'm sorry. Anybody else?
Mind if I chime in?
Yeah.
Kind of along with what you were saying about playing with other musicians. I recently just got into the hip hop game here. I thought that was really cool. It was a real change up from just DJing by myself, you know? You got two other rappers there, and they know what they want to do, and you're not playing what you want to play, you're playing what they want to play, you know? And it just brings another element, you know, like you're bringing two vocal or one vocal instrument into it, you know? You can really change the dynamics of the whole set, you know? And it's just another form of electronic music that can be implemented and can be really fun, you know? I just kind of thought that was cool that you mentioned playing with other musicians, you know?
What a define electronic music.
So EDM, electronic dance music, right? It's the global term, just like you have roller skating, right? And then you have a brand underneath called Rollerblade, right? That's the brand. So EDM is the global sound of electronic music, and then from there you have derivatives of everything. And we could break it down as much as you want. I've seen websites that have branch trees that have been like 4 pages long. I mean, it's all the same stuff. Everything that we do is based on 32 beats, right? If you're a DJ, you think in 32 all the time, or you don't sound good, right? All we do is play 32 beat phrases inside all of this ridiculous music that just keeps looping with all these layers, and we make sure that they go together. And a person who's a DJ is a person who puts 2 songs together, and once they get those songs together, they figure out what things are working and what things aren't working, and they eliminate the things that aren't working until they get to a sound that sounds good. So you get a guy who's DJing 2 songs together, all they do is line up these 32 beat sections, and they pull out the stuff that doesn't work so it sounds good, right? That's all we basically do. But there's a lot to it, picking the right music and making sure you're pleasing the crowd and making sure you don't overlap vocals, and all these different things happen. So when we start off a kid at the DJ Academy, we put it in front of music that is as easy to maneuver around as anything you can imagine. So if I'm going to teach you how to drive, I take you to a parking lot with a Hugo with an automatic transmission, no telephone poles, no snow on the ground, and I say, here we go, drive. I don't hand you the keys to a tractor trailer and say, back it into the loading dock. We make it as easy as possible, and I can make an 8-year-old play the set that Tiesto played at Skylab 2 weeks ago and play it flawlessly, because we give them all the tools to make it easy. And then as they progress, we take these tools away. So the computer will obviously help these guys put songs together and help us get the beats lined up so they don't sound like crap whenever they're DJing. And we use those tools to teach them everything else, to teach them how to jump around in a DJ booth and make the crowd excited, to teach them how to maneuver inside the songs so that things don't overlap, so that Kesha isn't singing while Pitbull is singing, and things like that. And we get everything nice and clean, and we teach them how to do that. And then after they get that part, I can teach a 9 or a 10-year-old to take away those tools and start DJing like a real DJ without the sync on. And by the time I get these kids at 12, 13 years old, they can DJ without even using the tools that the computer offers, and they can use any piece of equipment, which is what we really shoot for, is to say, all right, this is the fundamentals of DJing. Here's the math that DJs work on, 32 beats. You always think in 32, you always line up these phrases. Now, jump over to this piece of equipment, it's the same thing. There's a play button, there's a tempo control, there's a cue button. All you gotta do is do the same thing over here. We end up progressing these kids till they get to the point where they can walk up to any DJ booth in the world, look at it and go, all right, this is a CD player from blah, 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 and here's the play button. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And they can play on anything, and that's what we really shoot for. And once they get that skill, then they gotta decide on a path. And the path inside DJing is that how you can make money. Depends on really what kind of people you want to play in front of. Do you want to play in front of a bunch of ravers at a music festival that all have glow sticks and wave them around and signs and say blah, blah, blah? Or do you want to play to an upscale nightclub where they walk in suits and tuxedos and drink bottles that cost $1,000? Or do you want to just play at a sports arena where everybody's jumping up and down because of the sports team and you're pumping the energy? So there's all these different places that we can go once they have the skill. You just have to develop the skill for them first. So I get these kids to the point where they can DJ anything. I'll send them to a birthday party for one of the Rockies baseball players. I'll send them to the Rapid Stadium to play for a sports bar. I sent them yesterday to the charity event at the Children's Hospital Gala that was over at the thing. And these kids played in the lobby there, and they were playing top 40 music. And then sometimes I'll send them to something that's EDM based, and they get to play that. So they get lots of different experiences going places, and they tell me what they want to do. And then we work on performance and what they're going to look like in the booth. Are you going to be a controller DJ that has a bunch of stuff in front of you, looks like the Starship Enterprise, and you're pressing all these buttons and making yourself look cool? Or do you want to do something where everybody thinks you're an amazing DJ because you're sitting there scratching on a turntable? It's all the same stuff. Everything's still based in 32 beats, and we can make it look cool while you go, or we can just sit there and hit buttons and do stuff. Or you can make your own music, right? And it doesn't matter how well you present yourself on stage, because your music is amazing, everybody will pay to see you play. So somebody like Tiesto, Calvin Harris, guys like that, they don't go up in the DJ booth and do all this crazy stuff. They just play one track, into the next track, into the next track. But it's Tiesto's track, and he's getting paid $150,000 to play an hour in Las Vegas once a month. That's a lot of freaking money, right? And it's just because of his production, not because he's doing something amazing in the booth. So there's lots of avenues that you can take to make money in the industry. You just got to kind of pick what you want to do and figure out where your talent is and run with that and go from there. And it takes a lot to make money in the industry. It's not just how you DJ. You also have to present yourself well when you're interacting with the other business people that you go in, club owners, promoters, agents, people like that. You also have the great marketing plan in place and great promotion power. So you have to keep all the social networks up and make sure that your marketing's in place and you're doing those kind of things. And you eventually have to start making your own music. If you're going to be a DJ and you're going to make it somewhere, if you're not producing your own music, you're not going to go anywhere unless you have something else driving you, like your Paris Hilton, and your name drives you along, right? You don't have to make music, but at that point you can pay to have someone else making music, so it doesn't really matter. So you always have to have something that leaps you out of your local town, and that's where production comes in. And you guys who have been producing music in a live music environment and know how to use a production studio are invaluable as someone who is making music on their computer, on their laptop at home, and don't know how to finish a track and get it out. So there's another collaboration that you could do with someone who's in the EDM industry. So they're like, I've been mastering tracks on Pro Tools for the last 15 years. If you want me to help you master this, I will. And all of a sudden you have a conglomeration with somebody. And if you get a guy who's a good scratch DJ, he might be a good addition to your live band. I know we opened for Morchiba about a year ago. That when they came in here, it's a big EDM trip-hop down-tempo group. And they had a DJ who was back there, and all he did was take samples from their music off of their later track. And he was just adding them in, and he would scratch and then drop a sample, and it was a loop or a 32-beat phrase or whatever it was, and he would pull it back out, and he was a visual element inside their live music performance. And he was back there in a set of turntables, and we just had, who's the guys that played at right before Flux Pavilion? It was Nas, was it Nas? There was another big hip-hop group that came in, and they had a DJ who was up there, and I'm sitting there watching a guy, and all he was doing was going, whoop, he'd stop. He'd come back in, and he'd stop, right? And the whole band's playing. He's got a drummer, he's got a bass guitar player, he's got a keyboardist playing everything else over on the side with like 8 keyboards around. It looked like he was driving a starship, right? And the guy's singing, and all this guy was doing was going, and he would just let it go. And then he would come back in. He was just adding an element in there. But when you looked at the show from a whole at Red Rocks, it was great because they had a physical performer up there moving around, and everybody thinks of hip hop, they think of a DJ, and he's part of that show. So bringing in a DJ to what your live band is could be a great addition to it. Plus, they have control of whatever sound they want inside their turntable. So you could add the trumpet if you've lost your trumpet player and have him scratch it apart and let it go, and they could really add it in. So as good as your keyboardist is, a DJ can do multiple sounds as well and sample in. So they're a great addition if you don't have a keyboardist and you want to try to bring in somebody who has a little bit of extra talent and can run multiple samples at once. They could be a good addition to you putting another person in your band to do some extra stuff.